A lot of states are kind of in this trend of eliminating alimony. So you've got this question of what happens to women if alimony is getting eliminated. Society used to view this in a paternalistic way, that alimony was there to take care of women. Well, women's rights and women's liberation has come along and said, we want to take care of ourselves.
I've had so many women come into me and say, well, I don't understand. What do you mean I have to pay him support? I'm the woman. I said, well, yeah, but you're the breadwinner. Mm-hmm. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Or I can't believe I have to pay him child support.
So we're seeing this trend among states where Florida's eliminated alimony, California is cutting back the taxes, which is cutting back the out-of-pocket for payment of alimony. A lot of states are kind of in this trend of eliminating alimony. So you've got this question of what happens to women if alimony is getting eliminated. Who's eliminating alimony? You're seeing this because more men than women are in the legislatures. More men than women are making the laws. More men than women have had to pay the alimony. So the men in the power position who are making the laws are saying, we don't like those laws anymore, so we're rolling those back. So then you've got, on the other hand, a change in societal viewpoints of society used to view this in a paternalistic way, that alimony was there to take care of women. Well, women's rights and women's liberation has come along and said, we want to take care of ourselves. So women are getting what they asked for. And the states' laws are now showing you and showing this in the rollback of these laws that women are being encouraged by the rollback of the laws, of the alimony laws, to say, like, you need to, in your marriage, not guarantee that you're going to get alimony. You got to take care of yourself even in your marriage.
Man, this is an interesting topic, that if you had to think of the reason alimony actually exists, and you think about it, years ago, men had to be the ones who created alimony. Now, to be fair, I think that there was a justification for it, and in some cases now, I still think that there is a justification for it in some shape or form. But it is very important to understand that even though she makes it seem like, oh, men are the ones now changing. Now, I don't think she's taking a victim role. She's just stating a fact that most likely men are more in the legislative role now and are changing the rules. I would still say that you have to remember that they were most likely, men were the ones who also created the alimony rule in the first place. So they're just repealing it, one, because they see a system that is either now being misused or is just outdated. Now, that debate can be had either way, not the point of this video. But it is important to understand that while they're repealing it, we are repealing it in the face of a massive feminist movement that has gone through in the last 20, 30 years. So is it wrong? No. Is it right that alimony is it punitive that alimony is being removed? I don't think so either. I think the fact is we live in a different time and people have the means to not game the system. We have seen the system being gamed too many times that, of course, it is in the interest of those in power to make the system more fair. And I can't stress that enough. They're trying to make it more fair to the individuals who've been penalized by the system. But I also want to say this. I think it's important to understand that I think they're also making these changes because marriage rates are going to be on the decline if they don't make these changes. The mere fact that people, especially if you're a man who has a lot to lose, you're going to make that decision based off of, am I going to lose a ton if I get married? You're less likely to want to get married, and the state and the community benefits less if men have that mentality. Yes, it is more self-preserving to the man, but we've known this for years and years and years. I would say thousands of years at this point. Men usually are willing to give up themselves for the good of the group. But what we've seen now in the last 5 to 10, 15 years now, or actually I take that back. I say what we've seen now in the last 5 to 10 years at most is that men have started to prioritize themselves. Now, though this might sound selfish, it is now forcing legislators to have to change the laws to make things more fair. The reason is men are seeing that, hey, I'm getting into these relationships that don't really consider me. When I go to family court, I'm getting hit over the head. I'm losing stuff. I'm gonna have to pay stuff, and she's gonna have the kids. These are all things that are going to be fair for legislators to understand that, hey, if you don't consider this, men are cost analyzers. We are cost benefit analyzers. We're going to look at a cost and say, hey, what does the benefit get? What do I get for paying this? What do I take on this risk? What do I get? And if the risk is too great for the cost, men aren't going to take the chance. And I think that's what they're starting to see. And I believe that that's why they're now starting to say, hey, you know what? I think it's best that we revisit these rules and we change them in a more favorable way for the one audience that that has to do the proposing 99% of the time. Because I think if you see marriage rates drop, I think the states will do worse. I think you will see less men motivated to join things like the military, less men being productive to build things. And you don't want a society where that's not happening. How do you mitigate that? You start to change the laws to incentivize men to come back and play the game of marriage. It's so important that I know, we live in a world where everyone's kind of individualized now. Everyone thinks, I should say that, we all think we're different, we're individual, and we don't need the community. But the truth is this: human beings have not advanced this far without considering community. And I do believe that as much as, the state wants to benefit off of whether it be single individual people living aside, having to get two different homes and all these, the state does benefit from that. The damage that it does is far worse than the benefit it's getting. I want to give you a chance to take a look at a country like the Koreas or South Korea, and I believe Japan as well. They're seeing a massive population drop. Even here in the West, we're seeing population drops, and those things aren't one-offs. These things are all intertwined. These situations are only occurring because of the current state of affairs, right? Marriage is more punitive for men than it is for women. Now, making changes like this, I think, is a step in the right direction. You want to incentivize good behavior. You want to take away things that incentivize people from making poor decisions. And I think that's what the states are trying to do here. They're trying to incentivize individuals who majority of the time, of course, are women in this situation that benefit from alimony to not have to think about, okay, I'm just gonna leave because I'm gonna get alimony. Now I know some of y'all are gonna cook me in the comments saying, but what about if she's getting abused and all this stuff? Okay, look, women are not getting abused in mass numbers like that. And if they were, you would literally walk outside your door and you would walk down your neighborhood and you would see half of the women, 25% of them, with black eyes. That's just not happening. That's just not happening. So we can't make, and I think that's what the state's starting to understand. Like, yes, the benefits were there because we incentivized people and whoever different actors that, that wanted to see people separated. They're starting to understand that if you want a community to build, you need to get the men to get married. You need to have families, and ultimately from families, you develop a community that grows. Without that, you're not gonna have kids as much. You're not gonna have a labor force going forward, or a labor, or just, the ability to do things, and your society will slowly die.
I've had so many women come into me and say, well, I don't understand. What do you mean I have to pay him support? I'm the woman. I said, well, yeah, but you're the breadwinner. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Or I can't believe I have to pay him child support. This doesn't make any sense to me. He wasn't a stay-home dad. He didn't do anything. I worked. I had a nanny. He didn't have a job, if that's what you mean by stay-home dad, but I still had to pay somebody to do everything else. And now he's going to take half my house, half my retirement, and I'm going to have to pay him child and perhaps spousal support. I think women are now learning, as I said, the law goes both ways. It's genderless. If you are the breadwinner, you will be paying.
I mean, I think it's so comical when the roles are reversed, because it almost sounds asinine hearing it. Like even me as a man, right? When I hear a woman having to pay alimony, it kind of feels different. Like, that's the one time I go into that's one of the few times I'm like feeling some type of way. And I think it's because as a man, you think that we are supposed to, and just, it's innate to someone like me, and I'm sure guys that are productive, it's innate to us. It's like, you want to be productive, you want to go conquer the world, you want to see things move. So it's kind of different to think about having to have a woman pay for me. I mean, don't get me wrong, if someone's writing me a check for free, I'm not turning it down. But if it at the cost of me, man, that's a tough one. I'm not gonna lie, that's a tough one. I think the laws were written in a way that were trying to be fair. And now that we live in a world where women could be anything that they want, of course within reason, women could take on roles. Women make money too now. Women, I know so many women that are successful business. These people are good, sound decision makers, money makers, so it's only right that when the laws were written, the laws weren't genderly applicable, saying only one person can get it. It just says whoever earns the most. But I bet you, though, I'll say this, I bet you when you sit in front of that judge, I don't know if they're gonna be as, if a guy judge is gonna look at you and just be as lenient and say, yeah, you get, X percentage as alimony for 30 years. I'm sure there's, it's like, I'm sure they're not going to give you the same lengthy alimony benefits that they would give women on average. But I'm betting, just because if I was a judge, shoot, I'm not going to lie to you, I'm not going to give that. I'm sure I'd have a bias. But unfortunately, that's the sad part, right? The sad part is that we do have a bias, and we shouldn't, right? If these are the current laws, unless we incentivize them, like they stated in that last video, we need to incentivize the lawmakers to change these laws. And part of that is women that are high earners, they find themselves in a situation, a relationship, marriage, and they're having to pay alimony. I think those women start to cause havoc and start to scream, get involved in the legislation as well, then I think we would actually see change that's beneficial to most men. The reason I say that is, think about it, women are hypergamous. They usually want to date a guy above where they are. We already know the drill, not gonna go over it. But in the long run, we need some of those people to be our allies, to be able to change the alimony laws for the greater good. I don't think any man or woman in mass should just automatically get alimony. I think there should be set rules, and those rules should be tightly governed. And in that situation, they should be able to get alimony. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Does it seem unfair when a woman has to pay a man alimony? And you as a guy, if you had to receive alimony, would you feel less of a man to receive it? Do you know anyone who's receiving it? Let me know what you guys think in the comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video.